Chapter 73, The Laws of Liability, Part 2. Exodus chapter 21, verses 28 to 36. If an ox gore a man or a woman, that they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it hath been testified to his owner that he hath not kept him in, but that he hath killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and his owner shall also be put to death. If there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatsoever is laid upon him. Whether he have gored a son, or have gored a daughter, according to this judgment shall it be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. And if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. And if one man's ox hurt another's, that he die, then they shall sell the live ox, and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also shall they divide. Or if it be known that the ox hath used to push in time past, and his owner hath not kept him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. Exodus chapter 21, verses 28 to 36. In these verses, we have further examples of the meaning of liability. These cases give us instances which set forth a general premise. In the first case, verse 28, a goring ox is cited, but the law means that any farm or household animal can incur liability for itself and its owner. If the ox gores and kills a man or a woman, the ox is to be killed, but the owner is not guilty. The flesh of the ox is not to be eaten because the ox is unclean due to its offence. The ox is stoned, which means that it is killed without being bled thoroughly. Any way whereby no full bleeding occurs would be legitimate for the execution. This would prevent use of the dead animal's meat by any covenant person. The second case, verse 29, involves an ox which had been known to gore people, and yet the owner had not kept him penned. If such a known vicious animal of any kind then kills a man or woman, not only the ox dies, but also the owner. In such a case, the owner, by his negligence, shares in the liability with his animal. He is guilty of murder. The third case, verses 30 and 31, tells us that, whereas in the other kinds of killing there is no escape from the death penalty, in the case of a known dangerous animal, the owner can pay a ransom for his life. The family of the slain person can set a ransom, and the court then approves it or alters it. The term, a sum of money, verse 30, is kafir, a covering, meaning a propitiation or an atonement. The sum of money would be given as a weight of gold or silver. This applies whether or not the person were an adult or a child, a boy or a girl. The fourth case, verse 32, refers to a like killing by a farm or household animal of a manservant or a maidservant. The reference is to a foreign slave. In this instance, the restitution is clearly specified, 30 shekels of silver. The shekel, then, was not a coin, but a weight of silver. This was the price. 30 pieces of silver. Matthew chapter 26, verse 15, paid to Judas for betraying Jesus. Because it was the price of a slave, it was a way in which the chief priests evaluated Christ's worth. This ugly act has coloured our ideas ever since about Exodus chapter 21, verse 32, precisely because a man in courts would agree that the life of a foreign slave or a foreign worker was not worth much. A high ransom price was set. The man then faced either death or the price of 30 shekels of silver, while it was a ransom for his own life, well priced. It also clearly set forth that the humblest person, even among aliens, was under God's concern. These laws simply give us the details of what God commanded of Noah in Genesis chapter 9, verses 5 and 6. And surely your blood of your lives will I require, at the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. The reason is thus clearly stated. All men are created in God's image, and hence neither men nor animals can kill man without guilt. Hence, the ransom paid by the animal's owner for his life was high, even if the dead person was a foreign slave or hired hand. The fifth case, verses 33 and 34, concerns the death of an animal that falls into an uncovered pit. This pit could be any excavation, but it was normally a cistern. If, for one reason or another, the cistern was not fenced in, or the gate left open, or the cover removed, a stray animal could fall in and die. The cistern may have been left uncovered to catch the night rain. This case, however, applies to any excavation. The owner of the cistern was liable for the dead animal. He had to pay for it, and then the dead animal was his. It was a compulsory sale at the market price that the animal would bring if it were alive. The dead animal would have little value except for its hide, although some foreigners preferred dead, unbled animals for food. There was an added problem for the careless owner. He had a cistern full of contaminated water. Such a drowning animal often loses control of bowels and bladder. The sixth case, verse 35, has reference to a case of 2 oxen fighting and one dying. No fault is involved. The 2 animals simply fought and one died. In such a case, the loss is divided. The live ox is sold, or possibly half its value is paid to the owner of the dead ox. The dead ox is sold, and the receipt for it divided. Even though neither owner was guilty of any wrongdoing, the consequences had to be shared. In the seventh case, verse 36, there is guilt on the part of one owner. His ox, bull, or whatever other animal was involved had a record of dangerous behaviour. Instead of keeping this animal penned, the owner allowed him to graze freely. In such a case, the guilty owner had to compensate the other man. The dead animal was then his. There is an interesting sidelight to this. The dead animal might still be worth something for its hide or as meat to some pagans. However, it might be so badly torn and gutted as to be worthless. In any case, because the dead animal was his, he had to remove the carcass. The specific character of biblical law is embarrassing or painful to many. Many religions use vague, high-sounding and general affirmations of supposedly spiritual truths. Religion, for such faiths, is not concerned with mundane affairs. Neoplatonists and Stoics refused to believe that the material world and its affairs should be any concern of the philosopher. This attitude was prevalent also in the monastic movement within the Church. Marriage was a concession to a lower element in man. Among some Calvinists, major battle lines were drawn over the issues of lapsarianism, sub, infra, and supra-lapsarianism. Such thinking blasphemously projected a time sequence into the mind of God, making him subordinate to time and subject to the limitations of human thought. Conversely, from the Romans to the present, law has been subjected to childish specificity, to a detail of amazing nature. The medieval canonists were guilty of this also. For example, there was a difference of opinion as to how many lovers, paid or unpaid, women needed to be classified as a prostitute. Johannes Teutonicus held that it required a minimum of 23,000, although on other occasions he said either 40 or 60. Some Spanish authorities set the figure at 5 or more. As against such concepts of law, Scripture gives us a little more than 600 laws, which establish understandable premises for all kinds of problems. Many of these laws must not be enforced by either the Church or the state. They are between God and man. As a result, we have in biblical law, first, a limited number of laws and an even more limited number of penalties. Second, the emphasis is covenantal. Man in covenant with God is a governmental power. If his faith and character are bad, no law can make him good or create a good social order. Thus, the essential ingredient for a good society is true faith on the part of the people. Third, the law is written for and addressed to the people, not to lawyers, because the essential enforcement comes from self-government. The law is not a monopoly of church, state, lawyers, or anyone else. It is for the self-government of the people and of every sphere of life and thought. Currently, liability laws are in sorry disarray. Total liability is insisted on by the courts for what was once considered an act of God, an incident in which no guilt was involved and natural causes were at work. The reason for this is the loss of biblical faith, a loss of belief in the God of Scripture. There are no accidents or errors in God's work because He is omnipotent, perfect, and omniscient. All His ways and works infallibly serve His sovereign purpose. If God be denied, then His sovereignty and infallibility accrue to other agencies. One of these is the state, which normally cannot be sued without its consent. There being no higher law beyond the state in humanistic thought, there can be no valid criterion for judging the state, unless the people are sovereign and their general will expresses itself in the state as infallible. The courts, however, seem to assume that the modern corporation, as the great humanistic power of an earlier generation, is infallible also, but only in an evil sense. The corporation is routinely held to a total liability for any and all incidents occurring within its jurisdiction, even though no guilt in any historic sense is involved. A sound doctrine of guilt requires biblical faith. Neither man nor the corporation, nor the state, for that matter, can be perfectly accountable for everything that occurs within its jurisdiction. Accountability is essentially to God in terms of His law, not man's feelings.